Thanks, Chris, for that introduction. I think you said something about some drinks. Why? Hi, I'm James, and this is Jono. We're something Splendid. We run a two-man design studio here in Melbourne, and we only started 4 years ago, right after we finished at Monash University. And it feels pretty weird for us to be up here on stage after being in the audience for so many years. This is actually our 9th AGIdeas, and we've only missed one since 2002 when we started studying. So when we were asked in August last year if we'd be interested in speaking, we had a little bit of trouble containing our enthusiasm. So over the years, we've been inspired by hundreds of incredible speakers, and as students sitting in the audience, we especially love those who told the story of how they got to be up on that stage, because who doesn't dream of that? So today, we're going to quickly try and tell you a little bit about how we got here. So I'll start with 2007. Jono and I are in our final year at uni. I'm studying design, he's studying photography, and over the last couple of years, we've become really good friends. And, you know, I'm sure so many of you had this exact same fantasy conversation with a couple of mates at uni that maybe we should start a studio, it'd be really fun. And about halfway through our final year, it got a little bit more serious than that. And, you know, we sat down one night in my parents' spare room where I was sort of working as our first studio, and we came up with the name Something Splendid, and really quickly we came up with a logo. That's some advice: if you want to make a logo, do it in 2 hours, and then don't try and change it. And we wanted to do something a bit more interesting with it because it was just clean vectors, and that's not at all who we are at all. So we decided to have a bit of fun with it because we're pretty enthusiastic guys. So we cut the logo out from cardboard and clamped it up in my parents' room and turned off the lights, and then just started going stupid and playing with little lights and sparklers and just taking some long exposures of them. And that sparkler image you saw at the beginning and now almost set my parents' carpet on fire, so sorry, Mum. So we had a name and a logo, and we're kind of getting pretty overexcited, which I think uni students definitely do. But we thought that maybe if this wasn't just going to be a fantasy, that we could actually run a studio together somehow, and we thought we'd try it out, and while we're still at uni. And so we started doing real projects by turning some of our uni work into actual jobs for some of our friends. And this is really embarrassing for me right now. I'm going to show one of my uni projects to 2,500 people, so please don't be too mean. So my friend was starting a new theatre company, and he needed a branding, and I said I'd do it for free, which is a great way to get work. It was a young theatre company, and it was called Pipe Dream, which is a name I really liked. And I figured that because they were all in their 20s, we're all really young, everybody involved, that we'd kind of try and make a bit of fun of their youth. And because of the name, we really quickly thought of Magritte's famous pipe and kind of ripped it off. So we copied the pipe, but I made it out of children's plastic drinking straws, multicolored ones, which maybe in hindsight made them look a little bit too young. I think they had trouble getting investors, but So then I expanded that by turning those straws into an entire alphabet. Built each letter by hand. They're about this big. I've still got them somewhere. And hung them up and then photographed them and then turned it into a whole font. And I was working on this late one night, and it's due in a couple of days, and I run out of straws, and I've only built a few letters, and I'm freaking out. So I ran down to the supermarket and bought every single packet of straws they had, which was way too many. I spent $50, and I got the weirdest look ever. I think I bought $50 of straws and a drink. So once the font was done, I put the logo together really quickly with the pipe, and I actually had it as a real thing. It was about this big and just loose letters, and I ended up sort of sticking them together on some string. And then we were able to then take it out into the real world to then have some fun with it. And so these were some images we used for their business cards, and you saw my parents' fridge and my bath with my rubber duckies. They're actually my rubber duckies, and some army men that I found in an old box. And Pipe Dream really liked it. It really worked really well for them. They were taken really seriously as a company, and the best thing was I got good marks from uni, and I'd worked on a real job. And after it was handed in, John and I then collaborated on turning that into a full campaign for them, and the print work, and they had a season of 3 plays in their first 18 months. We did all the artwork for that. And one of the last things we built for them, I'll have one of those too, was a light-up sign for them to use in their foyer. And they were pretty low budget, so they couldn't afford neon. So we used electroluminescent wire, which is like $20 on eBay, and put it inside the straws. And people thought they'd spent lots of money.
So university's coming to an end, and we've done some real work together. I already had a full-time job as a web developer, and James had just been offered a junior position as a designer. But we were so excited about starting a studio that we decided we'd ditch our jobs and just jump right in. And it was a really stupid idea, and the best thing that we've ever done. So at the start of 2008, we rented our first studio, which was above a small toy shop on Gertrude Street, Fitzroy, and here it is in all its glory. And one of our first jobs was for the Halof project, which was another new theatre company. Their producer was James's friend from Pipe Dream, so that's how we got the job. And we started off by branding the Haloft, which was their performance space in a converted warehouse in Footscray. The logo was directly inspired by the windows on the side of the warehouse. And then when it came time to fit out the space, it only made sense to put that logo back into the windows. Something we hadn't planned on was just how good they looked with light shining through them. So we decided to take hold of this idea and reuse it when making their internal signage. So we cut the letters out of these cardboard boxes and installed lamps in each one, which made this sort of light-up sculpture that sat in the foyer of the space. And so for their first performance, we continued on with the theme of cutting out cardboard and did this little mock-up and sent the photo off to get approval, which they liked. So we spent the next 4 days cutting cardboard, cutting a lot of cardboard. Those are this big. And so like Pipe Dream, we wanted to take these signs out and about, but this time we wanted to get some people in there as well. So this first shoot was in their warehouse. And this is the cast and the director, and that's me in the back in my socks, and I don't know why I was in my socks. The next shot was done in a pool, but I cannot remember why it was in a pool, but here it is. A little tip, it's kind of risky photographing the text in the image in case, like if you weren't allowed to put beer in a promo, or if you say the dates were to change, it would be a nightmare and you wouldn't be able to change it later on down the track. Like this. That's 2 days of my life I'm not getting back from photoshopping. The last shoot was in a construction site. We wanted to put the sign up there with the guys and we'd sit down and photograph up. But none of the cast were game to climb up, so we just did the director and the producer. And so this is what it looks like as a design. This is the invitation, and then we took all 3 photos and made the promo posters for the play. At the beginning of 2009, we decided we wanted a bigger place, and so we moved into Collingwood. This is a shared space with half a dozen of our friends and space for all of our shit. And so our work with the Halof project attracted a very different type of client for us, which was Crimestoppers Victoria. They're a very serious organisation, and they wanted to reach out to young people with a new campaign. So we suggested they would need a lighter tone, something perhaps tongue-in-cheek. I have this bizarre love of old 80s TV commercials, and this is one of my favourites, so have a look.
But what if you didn't have to give your name and could get up to $1,000 reward? Through Crimestoppers, thousands of Victorians have given the police information confidentially. So, put the finger on crime. Phone Crimestoppers on 865-5000. Crimestoppers.
So that's gold. That was perfect for us. So we wanted to bring this guy back for the campaign, the finger, not the crook. So we needed to sell them on the idea with a mock-up, as we always do, so here it is.
Thanks for our friend for lying in a car park looking like he's getting...
Yeah, we're going to reuse this photo later on for nefarious purposes. But photoshopping it is too easy. We needed a bigger challenge, so 50 square meters of cardboard later, and we started building it for real. It took us 3 days to build, and we've squished that into a little 30-second clip for you to see how it was done. So yeah, if you can make your project build itself, it makes life a hell of a lot easier. So we lovingly named this guy The Finger, as you can see, and now he had to go out and catch the crook. We recreated that commercial, so. And we love this finger so much, and as is our style, we took it out and put it in some different situations. Again, you get some strange looks from passers-by. We stole a wedding party's rotunda to get the right angle for this shot, and they were truly pissed. And yeah, so we've got, I think, one last video of what we did for them.